The more I think about this, the more I notice things that I've missed that correlate with the initial 2:20 a.m. reported collision time. Now in this video, we're going to show you, from the words of a sailor who was aboard, that they believed they were under attack. Before I get to that, I just wanted to cover this real quick. Now I know it's very, very hard to see. This is Sailing Anarchy Forums, acxcrystaltrack.jpg, USS Fitzgerald collision with container ship. So you can go look at this yourself. But anyway, this shows a bunch of different locations. Looks like about 8 different locations. Direction of travel and speed correlated with time. Now, you have to add 9 hours to this, so 16:30 military time is 4:30 p.m. So 16:30 here correlates with 1:30 in the morning. Now, local time, 1:30 a.m. local time, 16:30 is UTC, or otherwise known as Greenwich Mean Time. When we look at the track, it says A, 17.3 knots. So this means at this point of impact, because this is when they said it occurred, the ship was traveling at 17.3 knots. Now the distance between these returns, the greater the distance between the returns, the higher the speed of the ship, which makes sense. It's returning on a regular basis, location, and the farther the ship has traveled in that static period of time, you can then make assumption about the speed. That's why down here, when you see the tracks all real close together, it's moving much slower. And you'll see that correlated down here in this right-hand column with the speed. One thing that's been missed in all of this is that these weren't the only 2 ships out there. There were plenty of other ships. And as the captain of the ACX Crystal, and based on his statements to Dianichi, he said, and I quote, "At 1:20, 10 minutes prior to the collision, he attempted to steer hard right." Now, we have had people come to the channel, and rightfully so, say that in that situation, he would have had the right-of-way. The ship to the port has to give right-of-way to the ship on the starboard. So, if he didn't know the rules of the road and maintained his course, and tried to avoid the collision. He didn't try to avoid the collision at the last minute. At 17.3 knots, which we can see the return showing here, and turning hard right, it stands to reason that if he had maintained his course, he would have probably missed the destroyer, the Fitzgerald, because the Fitzgerald then would have beaten him across. You have to think about it in terms of a car. If you're coming to an intersection, you have a green light, they have red light, and a car comes through, and it's moving faster than you are since you're standing static, you would swing left to miss him. If he was trying to beat across the front of you, you wouldn't swing right. That would guarantee you would hit him. Now, I know things are a little bit different in boats out at sea, and the distances are much larger and the sizes are completely different, but the same principle applies. This man was a ship's captain. I don't think he's just stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night and watched the video and became a ship's captain that day. I think he'd probably been to sea quite a few times and knew how this was supposed to be handled. So this idea that he would make this hard right-hand turn without, can you remember here, he's saying in this area here, he knew. He's saying in this area here, he knew he had a ship coming off of his port that was going to be on a collision course. Well, a simple thing to do there would have been to slow your ship. It's only 600-foot ship. How much, I mean, you're saying, well, you can't slam on the brakes. I get that. But the man said that he made his attempt to miss him 10 minutes prior to the collision, meaning that he knew about it even farther before that. So you're saying at 3+ miles, that ship couldn't have gone reverse or at least killed the engines and slowed its approach? Well, we can see that it clearly can. Look at the distance here and look how much it slows from here to here. It could easily slow down that much in that amount of time, allowing that destroyer to pass right in front of it. And it could have maintained its course, not turned left, not turned right, not had to do anything, just slowed down, let the thing go in front of it, and then just continue on its way. But it didn't do that, so that's why none of this makes sense. Also, you've hit something. Your bow has gone from an eastward trajectory to a southward trajectory. You are 10 stories above the water with the ability to look directly behind you with no boat in front of you. You can clearly see exactly where the destroyer is, how fast it's moving, and on what track. You wouldn't have needed to search. You could have maintained visual contact with that ship all the way through here. And down here, you're moving at the speed of smell right here. You could have easily, you didn't have to speed up here or speed up here or speed up here like you did. You could have loitered right in this area and made the call way before 2:20. This is all nonsense. And that's why this story doesn't make any sense. But to get to the soldier, listen to me, sailor, in his own words. Now this goes back to the original, very beginning of the investigation. I pulled this up to confirm what the Navy had said. Now this was 2 days, 2 full days. Both ships were in port. The Coast Guard initially said the collision occurred at 2:20 a.m. because the Philippine ship had reported at 2:25 a.m. I sound like a broken record, I know. And said it just happened. After interviewing Filipino crew members, the Coast Guard has changed the collision time to 1:30, meaning that when they were on the boat, they said one thing, but then once they had a chance to get their stories all straight as to how they were going to cover their ass, they decided to all get together and change the time to 1:30. Coast Guard officials Tetsuya Tanaka said they were trying to resolve what happened during the 50 minutes. Okay? And adding to the confusion, a U.S. Navy official said it's sticking with the 2:20 a.m. timing. 48 hours after this event, the U.S. Navy knew everything about this accident that they're gonna know. Under normal circumstances, you don't lose track of a $1 billion U.S. Navy destroyer. You know where it is, what it's doing, where it's going, every minute, every second of the day. The U.S. Navy has its own ways of tracking its ships. It doesn't need to rely on reports from the Japanese Coast Guard. And this was Commander Ron Flanders. This wasn't just some low-level lackey that said this. But, anyway, as promised. Down here, at the end, I think it's very illustrative. The mother of another sailor on the ship said her son kept diving in his flooded berth after the trash to try to save his shipmates until it began running out of air pockets, while other survivors, believing their ship was under attack, hurried to man the guns. So in the moments after this, sailors aboard believed they were under attack. Now, if operations were, as has been reported, normal aboard that destroyer, the command crew would have been aware of the location and the travel direction of that container ship. It would have known it was a collision. Nobody would have been manning any guns. Nobody would have been getting orders to go man that gun. And that's what these guys were doing. They were following orders because they were under attack at that time. And the command crew knew it. Now I said, if things were normal. Clearly, aboard this ship, things were not normal at that time. I have had many people who have spent a lot of time in the Navy that know a whole lot more about this than me. Look at that damage and see no scraping aft, no scraping bow. That's a dead-on hit of a ship dead in the water. This track describes a container crew, some event here, noticing a ship here that is dead in the water, turning away from that ship for some reason, possibly to avoid the EMP, moving out here, getting a far enough runaway, coming back here, left-hand turn, attempt to sink, failing at their terrorist attack, loitering, trying to figure out what the hell to do, cooking up a story, calling it in as an accident, and then saying goodbye. Beginning and end of it. I don't know how you take anything else away from it, folks. We had sailors aboard who believed they were under attack. They had good reason to, because they were. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you.